So this should be pretty interesting. So you guys know Stefan Molyneux. I've talked about him quite a bit as of recent because he's sort of been out there recently. Now, first I talked about how he has totally done a massive, like I said, it was like a Dave Rubin-like 180-degree flip. He was a libertarian, and he has now become who is just somebody who's on the Trump train. And if you are to go back, and you can go watch my video on it, if you go back and watch his older videos and compare him to now, he's basically a different human being. He's an entirely different person. Back then, he was defending Muslims, he was defending immigrants, etc., etc. And now he demonizes them. And the reason why is because he jumped on the Trump train. That's what he did. I mean, there is a libertarian to deep end, pipeline that's been happening, especially because Ron Paul has some pretty shady history too. So there's definitely something going on with that. Now, Stefan is someone who's an absolute lunatic. He's managed to go even further off the deep end than he already was before. Now, this guy, if you don't know, every time something basically comes out in popular culture, so like let's say, Star Wars, a new Star Wars movie comes out. Every time something like that happens, he uses that and he tries to utilize that for his own gain. So he'll make videos about Star Wars and he'll say, this movie is about the end of the white race. So immediately you can just take this guy as a joke because that's what he is. The guy is someone who's a complete joke. He thinks that Star Wars, this last Star Wars movie that came out, was attempting to spread the message that the white race is about to be over and it's about to be extinct. A person like that is somebody who's not to be taken seriously. He's just a total and complete joke. There is no other way around that. And he does that with all kinds of movies. There's also, by the way, I want to really quickly say this, there's also a weird hypocrisy over there where if, I think I seen Jordan Peterson, I think he made fun of Frozen, or not made fun of, he critiqued it for like some feminist, saying it's some feminist propaganda. So it's like, it's okay to critique, these kinds of things like Frozen if you're Jordan Peterson. But whenever something comes out that you basically, whenever there's something that other people are trying to critique that are cartoons or something, you think that they're part of the feminist agenda. So it's like you get triggered, but then you get pissed off at other people getting triggered. Like if anybody else on the left were to do that, to try to use Star Wars and all these other dumb stuff for their political gain and for their political ideology, people would laugh at them. But Stefan doesn't really get laughed at for making videos about how Star Wars The Last Jedi is an attempt to show that the white race is about to meet its end. It's insanity. So this guy is a total unhinged lunatic. I mean, there's really no way around it. And again, this guy used to consider himself a libertarian. I don't know what he considers himself. And recently, you guys know about the whole Poland debacle and the whole debacle where he went on Twitter and he tried saying, no more guilt and all of this other stuff. And he was, got into it with David Pakman and Brett Weinstein from the intellectual dark web. Now, here's something interesting. So apparently this is shocking. Apparently Noam Chomsky accepted to do an interview with Stefan, which is very interesting to me. I was surprised about that. This is from like 4 years ago, I think, somewhere around there. Now, it's pretty insane. Now, this isn't a debate. I think it's just an interview. It is just an interview. But Noam Chomsky next to Stefan is one of the biggest intellectual discrepancies in all of man-made history that we've ever seen. In all of history we've ever seen. I mean, just think about it. On one side you have Noam Chomsky, and then on the other side you have Stefan Molyneux. That's the situation we're looking at right now. So Stefan considers to be a libertarian. Now, what Noam Chomsky is about to do is Noam Chomsky is actually going to educate him about the actual history of libertarianism. Go ahead and check it out.
Remembering, considering the way you describe your audience, that there's one crucial difference between American libertarianism and traditional libertarianism. Traditional libertarianism was opposed to any form of dominance and hierarchy. One of the slogans was, no God, no master, meaning no ecclesiastical dominance, no masters in industry and personal life and families anywhere else. American libertarianism is quite different. It's perfectly happy to support masters. In fact, it extols them. It's in favor of it. It wants no interference with the domination and control of people in the workforce, let's say. That's very counter to traditional libertarianism, either in Europe or, for that matter, in the United States. If you go back to the 19th century, early days of the Industrial Revolution, there were mass popular movements which had their own journals. You can read what they said and so on. And they were just spontaneous. They were opposed to the way in which the industrial system was forcing them to turn into tools of production under someone else's control and destroying their independence as free people, also destroying their culture. Their slogan was, those who work in the mills should own them. That was taken for granted. In fact, it was what they called wage slavery, wage labor. They regarded as not very different from chattel slavery. Now, that was such a popular position in the United States in the 19th century that it was a slogan of the Republican Party. Wage labor is tolerable because it's temporary, but people should control their own industrial fate. This is as American as apple pie and quite different from what's called libertarianism today. These are important things to bear in mind.
Yeah, so what Noam Chomsky just explained to Stefan is absolutely true. Originally, libertarianism was a left-wing ideology, which, there's libertarian socialism. There's a lot of different variations of lefty thought on the left, and there's a ton of infighting amongst the left. So, there's infighting amongst people who are anarchists and people who are Marxist-Leninists and blah, 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 blah. It's just on and on and on and on and on and on, never stops. Just name after name after name after name of ideology on the left. It's truly insane. It's maniacal how many fucking different variations there are. So it basically represented anarcho-syndicalism. It was anarcho-syndicalism and just some form of anarchism, essentially. And there's still libertarian socialism is known as one of the ideologies. But, there has been a right-wing perversion of what libertarianism really is. And now, especially in the United States context, the context of libertarianism in the United States is virtually the opposite of what it was originally speaking. Now, of course, libertarianism now is all about get the government out of, get it out of my face, get it out of everything, leave it to private business and everything. This is fundamentally, opposite of the original classical libertarianism, which is that basically, they were anarchists. They believed in, and as Noam Chomsky says there, they thought, whoever works there should own it. So while anarchists believe in democratization of and ownership of the means of production, libertarians are not like that. They're about private business. They don't want the workers owning the means of production. And so the definition has absolutely massively changed. And it's interesting. I don't know if Stefan knew about that or not. Stefan is more of a pseudo-libertarian. Well, now he's just not even a libertarian at all, because libertarians are supposed to believe in the free movement of labor and different things like that. And that's why places like the Cato Institute, which is Koch funded, has put out, I believe they put out like studies and stuff where they support open borders, because the more people that come in, the cheaper the labor. So the free movement of labor is a huge principle of libertarianism. So, and he's just not a libertarian. Now, the other right-wing perversion has been, that goes even further than libertarianism in the context of the United States. And that perversion is anarcho-capitalism. Now, here's the problem with anarcho-capitalism. It's a total oxymoron. It doesn't make any sense. Now, to be fair to this statement that I'm making, I do want to make clear that anarchism on its own is extremely confusing, because as Noam Chomsky said there, he said, any dominance hierarchies. Now, his definition of anarchism is abandonment of unjust hierarchies. So like patriarchies and, capitalism and stuff like that. So, I guess if you go by the definition that Noam gives of unjust hierarchies, I mean, one man's unjust hierarchy is another man's just hierarchy, So it's like, but anarcho-capitalism is a massive oxymoron. That's like being like an anarcho-fascist. Like, how does that work? It doesn't make any sense. You're talking about, especially in the context of the origination of anarchism, which is far left ideology of workers owning and democratizing the workplace, it doesn't make any sense that you would have anarcho-capitalism because it's completely oxymoronic. It doesn't make any sense. The whole point of anarchism was for an abandonment of capitalism, an abandonment of the hierarchies that are resulted from capitalism, which is the economic hierarchies and the workplace hierarchies. And that's why anarchism is all about the workers owning industry and the democratization of industry. So the entire term anarcho-capitalist is dumb on its face. Okay, it doesn't make sense. It's oxymoronic. Now, two, anarcho-capitalism is hilariously stupid. Okay, anarcho-capitalism is insanely dumb. It's unbelievable that people actually believe in this kind of garbage. It's absolutely insane that, these kinds of things. I mean, really, to be an anarcho-capitalist, there are different, I guess, variations of ANCAPs, but if we're talking about, like, if you talk about libertarianism, where, libertarians still believe in, public funding of police and stuff like that, I've seen ANCAPs who literally say that we shouldn't have a public funding, and there is no way that they believe in public funding of police. They think that everyone should basically be able to deem through the market, through private police officers. You get to determine, you get to look at Yelp. And I've legitimately heard this online where it's, you look at the Yelp reviews and you see, and then you get to determine which police force and protection you want. And, I have private property rights, even though there's no government to actually, enforce those rights. And there's massive, massive problems with this kind of ideology. Those comes with, if you don't issue deeds, and then if you do issue a deed, whose deeds are right, if you don't have one specific entity that is to grant that, it doesn't make any sense. It would be pure insanity. It's very, very dumb. And anarcho-capitalism is a very fringe ideology, thankfully, because it's really fucking stupid. The need for government is massive, and even libertarians. Look at Milton Friedman, for example. He's Chicago School of Economics. He understood the necessity for government. He didn't like that it was necessary, but it was necessary. So he was for a flat tax and a land value tax, and he was someone who said, yes, we do need government to protect private property, etc., etc. So ANCAPs and anarcho-capitalism is legitimately the dumbest thing ever theorized, especially because it's oxymoronic on the face of it. Okay, that's what makes it the worst.